The Euphrates is one of the world's most historic rivers, playing a role in many important chapters of human history. But all is not going well for the shocked river. Scientists at a depleting rate. But more worrying than declining water volumes are the drying up of the Euphrates and the predictions associated with the world's major religions drying up the river, signaling that the world is truly coming to an end. I'm here. Join us as we bring you what just happened with Euphrates River that shocked scientists. The Euphrates is one of the most prominent rivers in Western Asia, known as frat. In Turkish, it rises in Eastern Anatolia, generally flows south through southeastern Turkey around Chandler Fur, Adirman and Gai Anta provinces before crossing the border into Syria and then Iraq before emptying into the Persian Gulf in Basra. After joining the Tigris River, total length is approximately 2,800 kilometers or 1,740 miles, with 971 kilometers or 603 miles in Turkey. Euphrates River has two headwaters, the Kuru and Murad rivers, which join somewhere near the Kaban district of Ek province, where stands the Kayan Dam. One of Turkey's largest kaya is another significant dam on the river. The river Euphrates has been a hub of human activities and for thousands of years. Euphrates River flows through the center of Babylon. Seasonal flooding was mitigated by steep embankments on both sides. The Tigris, Iraq's other great river, flowed just north of the metropolis, joined to the Euphrates by a lattice work of waterways that irrigated the land, creating an agricultural bounty and contributing to Babylon's unparalleled. It was nearby that King Hammurabi codified one of the world's earliest legal systems 3,770 years ago, erected massive walls, built opulent temples, and united all of Mesopotamia. The land between the rivers. In 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar, arguably the city's most powerful ruler, conquered Jerusalem. Laman marched the Jews into captivity, giving rise to the 137th Psalm verse, made into the popular song by the rivers of Babylon. He also designed the Hanging Gardens, which were regarded as one of the seven wonders of the ancient world due to their tiered, lavishly watered terrace. There is no other city that approaches Babylon in magnificence. The Greek historian Aus proclaimed, looking at the current state of the river today, it might be hard to believe, but this stretch of the river was once a showcase of water management in Babylon. Marching through the country of Babylon, Cyrus the Great and his army came to the canals, which were cut between the Tigris and the Euphrates in order to circulate the latter's waters, which would otherwise drown all the adjacent country when the snows melt upon the Armenian mountains. Great canals as large as rivers ran parallel with the Tigris and Euphrates, and scores of others intersected the valley, connecting the two streams. There was hardly a corner of the entire country that was not well watered. The canals also served as waterways for crop transportation. The river also served as a route for religious warriors who spread Islam throughout the Middle East. In Ad 656, Ali ibn Ali Tib, the Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law, relocated the capital of his caliphate from Medina Kun, the Euphrates south of Babylon. Sio's fertile fields of wheat, date palms, rice, and other crops stretched miles from both. The Euphrates has been at the heart of many Iraqi cities. Identities for millennials ride up. So our modern times, take Fallujah, for example. The city's strategic location on the river drew a slew of invaders from the Persians to the Romans who attacked Fallujah in the 3rd century. Ad caravans from Arabia stopped in Fallujah to water their camels in the river on their way to the Mediterranean. Uday and Khrushchev, the Iraqi dictator's sons, built villas near the Euphrates and created an artificial lake using the river water. Saddam Hussein built one of his 81 palaces in Iraq overlooking the Euphrates in Fallujah in 1995. However, the news from experts about the river is dire. The Euphrates and Tigris rivers in Iraq will run dry within 2 decades. Less action is taken according to a report by the country's water. The bad news is that these two rivers provide up to 98% of Iraq's surface water supply. In fact, Iraq could become a land without rivers as soon as 2040. But what exactly is the problem with Euphrates River causing it to dry up? It is very complex, but climate change, conflict, and indiscriminate dam construction in neighboring countries have all contributed to a water crisis that threatens the livelihoods of millions in the. According to Berkeley Earth, a nonprofit organization based in California that focuses on climate science, Iraq's annual temperatures are rising at nearly twice the rate of the rest of the world. Since the late 1800s, the world has warmed by an average of 1.3 degrees Celsius, while Iraq has warmed by a whopping 2.5 degrees Celsius. However, when speaking about the human-made part of the Euphrates problems, it begins more than 1,000 miles upstream, near the river's catchment area in eastern Turkey below the Taurus Mountains. For generations, the Turkish government has been on a dam-building spree in an effort to generate electricity and create arable land. The Kevin Dam on the upper Euphrates was completed in 1974. In 1990, the AUR Dam was also the Southeastern Anatolia project, a $32 billion scheme to construct 22 dams in 19 hydroelectric plants on the Tigris. New Euphrates rivers will eventually supply nearly 1/4 of Turk's electricity. Meanwhile, Syria constructed the Tabor Dam upstream from RCA in the 1970s and added a few more dams on the Euphrates and its tributaries before the civil war halted development. Since the Turkish and Syrian dams were built in the 1970s, water flow into Iraq has been reduced by nearly 2/3 for decades. Iraq has fought with both neighbors over its fair share of the water. The conflict came close to erupting into violence in the early 1970s when Turkey and Syria diverted the Euphrates River into a series of reservoirs, nearly trying to help the river downstream in. In response, the Iraqi government built a network of canals connecting the Euphrates River to Lake Thar Reservoir, northwest of Baghdad. And according to the Iraqi ministry, the Euphrates River will only be filled to 1/3 of its original capacity by 2035. Combining it with the loss of the water in the Tigris, it will leave Iraq short of 80% of the 53 million cubic liters it consumes each, and independently. A recent NASA German government satellite study concluded the Tigris-Euphrates basin loses groundwater faster than any other place on the planet except India. The World Resources Institute, a nonprofit environmental organization based in the United States, has identified Iraq as one of the countries that will face extremely high water stress by 20. The effect of the drying up of the Euphrates is already playing out and taking a toll on the citizens of Iraq. According to aid organizations, the current water crisis is already threatening the lives of not less than 7 million people in Iraq and limiting access to food and electricity. Wheat production in the north of Iraq could drop by up to 70. The irrigation system would need a massive overhaul to improve the situation, which could cost somewhere between 50 and 70 billion money that the struggling nation simply doesn't have. And this means starvation is looming, and apart from that, as dams run dry, the electricity supply suffers, disrupting the operation of healthcare facilities and other critical infras. The drying waters of the river Euphrates, however, have had an unintended consequence. Archaeological discoveries, many of these formerly submerged sites, are now turning up as the riverbeds run dry. According to scientists, the Euphrates River has revealed 6 distinct historical eras, including Sumerian, Akkadian, Syrian, Greek, Byzantine, and Syria constructed Euphrates Dam in 1968 without diverting the Euphrates River to the desert, establishing lakes there. As a result, the dam's lake, which had a length of 100 kilometers and a width of 8 kilometers, inundated the river's most important ancient sites. Only a few monuments and artifacts were. This area is home to numerous cemeteries, as well as hundreds of Syriac Christian Moros. When the sun is shining and the lake water is clear, the submerged cemeteries can be seen clearly. A few cemeteries have been discovered on the right bank of the lake in Ruhr-Western region, but the left bank has now been explored as much as it is rocky, making digging work. D. The receding waters of the Euphrates River in Anta, Iraq, revealed the ancient city of Tellus. In fact, Mohammed Jaim, an Iraqi archaeologist, reported the emergence of at least 80 historical sites as a result of the Haidi Dam's lower water level. The Department of Antiquities in Doba, in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, has also announced the discovery of a 3,400-year-old Empire city that emerged when the waters, the Tigris River basin wreck. The city historically known as Zachiko was mentioned in Babylonian texts. It has a palace and several other buildings, as well as a large fence and uniform texts that were discovered. The researchers were impressed by how well many of the walls, which were made of sun-dried mud and been submerged for more than 40 years, have been preserved. This is most likely because of the earthquake that destroyed the city. It turned the upper parts of the walls into rubble, burying and protecting the city for scent. 5 ceramic vessels containing over 100 uniform tablets, some still in their clay envelopes, were also astonishingly well preserved. For example, dammed the Euphrates in 1990 to fill the lake at a Tur Dam, an artificial reservoir. The scholar explained that the technology already in place to halt the flow of the Euphrates River could be another piece of the puzzle that makes the fulfillment of the Book of Revelation in our lifetime a terrifying. Let's hear why you think the freight is drying up in the comments section below.